There we go. Okay.
Got it
Now
now.
we can officially start because and then Kim, I just wanted to prompt you that we do at some point need to approve the November meeting minutes because we missed our December meeting. So I just wanted to make sure that we um note
Thank
that as
you.
yeah.
Yes, thanks for that prompt. We'll do it. Maybe we'll do it right after you finish and
Okay.
before I kind of jump in.
Sounds good. So as a recap, as far as, legislative priorities, for this upcoming session, the session does start February 4th. And it is a short session this year, and it is not a budget year. So as far as what, we'll be looking to balance the budget, but we're not, any proposals that, would include large asks for as far as a budget's concerned would probably be um hard I'll just say to get through so anything that we talk about as far as that's concerned we would be looking at those types of asks in 27, not in this year. So this year we can, not that we wouldn't have any proposals, just letting you guys know that it's going to be a little more challenging to get something through that would require a budget expansion. And then a recap from last year, we were successful in short session getting the age increase to 26 for behavior coverage for those on private insurance. That does not include Medicaid. Medicaid still is only up to 21. And then also we did have a expansion in Husky B for behavioral services this last year. So that did happen, but not to 26 under Medicaid. Um, but our logic to that was that a lot of those individuals are getting coverage. If they're already on Medicaid, they're getting coverage in the waiver programs, or maybe on the wait list for waiver programs. But so that's something to consider. And then we were also successful securing funding for the statewide autism needs assessment. So that is still in the works, and we are working on a contract for some, a vendor to start that work. So that will be a big focus for us in this upcoming 24 months to get that executed and then to really take a look at that data. As part of that, we have negotiated a data dashboard that will be in that. So we will be able to, and anyone would be able to access that data after it's collected and analyzed. So that will be positive and hopefully will help us inform policy in the 27 year and moving forward as we see what results came back. So hopefully we can advocate and get some good information from those surveys and really get a robust response to that, which would be really great. So I will keep you guys all posted on progress with um, with that initiative. And so, as we're looking for, any policy suggestions moving forward, by all means, we can start looking at if there's any asks that we have that would include budget. It doesn't hurt to start talking about that now as we are looking to 27. And I'd be happy to, help facilitate any of those conversations with legislators as you guys have come up with, once you come up with ideas and any policies you'd like to move forward. So Kim, I think that's all. Oh, I did one more thing. Sorry. Access, we did get approved for the rural health grant. So it's with the AG's office, so they are reviewing language. So if that all goes through and that grant moves forward, There was a piece in there that impacts autism, and that's with a DCF expansion in Access Mental Health to include autism expertise so that providers would have the ability to call in and access autism expertise for mental health in the rural areas. So that would be a really great expansion to access mental health for individuals with autism if that moves forward in the state. So just wanted to highlight that, and I will keep you posted on progress for that as well.
That would really be good, Tara.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It's desperately needed. Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you, Tara. Does anyone have any questions for Tara with these updates? Great. We're going to move to approving our November. I'm supposed to start the meeting with that.
That's all right.
Our November minutes. So if you need a second to look them over, I will take first and second approvals.
Can be any member of ASDAC.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve?
Yeah.
Thank you, Lois.
You're welcome.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kara. Okay. So now that we got that little business out of the way, so as Tara said, this is a biennial year for the session, which means that we're not anticipating that anything that would require additional funds could be put forward. And I think that this year, probably more than any other year, this is very true because they're dealing with a lot of financial things, as you're probably well aware. So I told Tara, I'm thinking this is a good thing actually for us because it could give us a year really to really think through what it is that we want to propose for the following year's session. And I do want to personally follow up on the BCBA services, continuing to push for that to be done for life and ideally for Medicaid as well. And so to me, that would be helpful if we can kind of move forward with talking about an approach for that. I do know that we've had ongoing conversations about rates and helping to make sure that our services have enough funding to pay for what is needed. And that we continuously to talk about the slots and the value of those slots. And part of our needs assessment is to do a deeper dive on what is needed for those services, who needs those services, and to what extent. Because one of the things we've been discussing at length is the idea of coordinating services with level of need. Did I leave anything out, Tara, that has been in terms of priorities?
No, that was because I know today we were supposed to have DSS here to follow up with the questions that we had put together in November. I did send them that list of questions. Unfortunately, they were not able to be here today, but are planning for our next meeting to be able to answer those questions for us.
Thank you. I
Yep.
forgot about that. So I'm going to turn it over to the group based on what I've shared and what Tara's shared. What are some of those priorities that you definitely want to see move forward? And please bear in mind, again, that needs assessment, I think is going to be really critical in helping us to define. So I'm ready to hear reactions and other thoughts.
Tara, can you provide an update, please, regarding the needs assessment, what the timeline is looking like and where that all
Yeah.
falls? Thank you.
So nothing in the state moves quickly. We did secure the funding through Money Follows the Person, the Money Follows the Person grant. So that grant was written, it was reviewed by CMS and approved. So we have we have funding to do the needs assessment. So now we're working on a contract with the vendor to try to get that process moving forward. The projection that we have for how long that will take to collect the data and post that is 18 to 24 months once we get that contract executed.
So from when the contract is established, another 18 to 24 months.
That is
And
correct.
we're still waiting for that contract to be established.
That is correct. But
Okay.
we are closer than we were. So I am
Well, we're always getting
hopeful-
closer, yeah.
I am
Okay.
hopeful that because I'm working with DSS on this. So our hope is to have everything executed this spring. So March, April.
To have the contract started, you're saying,
Yes.
or established at that point. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Stephanie?
Thank you. Just another follow-up question regarding that needs assessment. I know that there has also been an interest in looking at this at the Transforming Children's Behavioral Health Committee, and that they are also doing some sort of a needs assessment. I think it's a little broader than what this topic is, but I don't know if there are plans to sort of collaborate with that legislative body and also do some sort of cross work, because I think they're looking into something very similar as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that we're definitely open to that. And as part of our planning, we were looking at not specifically TCB, but we can, now that I know that, I'll make sure to loop them in. But we were looking specifically at getting just making sure that we have stakeholder voices and review of all of that as well. But we're trying to keep it, we're not like, we have to make it for Connecticut. So we're not like fully replicating the Pennsylvania one, but we are trying to stick to that as closely as possible just because it will help us from a cost saving standpoint that we can they've already done those assessments and, so we're not like, this isn't like a study. We're not like officially replicating it, but we are trying to stick to that because we know that they've used that for planning for home and community-based services. So, but definitely we'll be looking. I just don't want it to get so extensive that like we can't obviously cover everything for everybody. So just making sure that it gets the data that we need, but it doesn't take like hours for somebody to complete. That's my only worry about too much, review and collaboration with other bodies who may be wanting information. I mean, this is pretty robust as it
Yeah.
stands.
Yeah. And I think it would probably work the other way where, making sure that they don't duplicate what you're already doing. So that's what I
Right.
was thinking. And
Yeah,
if you need me
absolutely.
to connect you to Erica from Tau or whatever, just let me know. I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, I do sit on some of those subcommittees too and represent ASDAC on some of the other ones. So I will make sure that they're looped in and I will make sure they look at the PA model so that they can kind of use that as a starting point. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate that.
Toby?
Yes, hi. I'm just curious, has the contractor already been selected or is that out to bid or for that study? Just curious.
So the thought was the way we proposed it to CMS was that we were going to do a replication. So that's why we're trying to sole source the bid to do that since they already have that experience.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Other reactions to our priorities or certainly questions?
Well, I have something I'd like to bring up that I'm not sure is connected or not, but I think is important. It's been brought to my attention by a number of families who have jumped through a lot of hoops to find me And I've gotten calls from in the last probably 6 months, a lot of families, that their children who are now on the waiver, a number of them have had difficulty getting through the whole benefits thing. Um, and mainly Social Security. It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. It's actually, I think, a nightmare for those of us who know something about the system. And I think for those with disabilities, it's an awful big ask. I really do. And because of a lack of understanding, um, a number of those folks have been sort of kicked off of the waiver. Not the waiver, I'm sorry, out of Social Security. And some folks are dealing with some of the same problems with Medicaid. So my long way around here, I know, but my question is it possible to have somebody at within the waiver program that could act as a benefits counselor to folks in the program, um, and they could get that kind of support? Because families aren't always able to do this as well. It's a real nightmare. It really is. And it seems, of course, we know what's happening this year, and it's a lot worse than ever. So I would think that, providing that kind of service to them would be I hate to say a no-brainer, but I think it should exist within the program.
Yeah, Lois, I think you bring up, I've also witnessed what you are sharing. And I think that this is a good thing to explore. I don't know, Tara, if this will come into the needs assessment at all, if you have any questions related to this, but it would be good to get a sense of the needs around that.
I know that I mean, as far as for onboarding for the waiver, I know that DSS works very closely with families, when they're onboarding. So, Lois, I'm just curious if, and it is, as you know, a pretty extensive process, which is why, there's the 5-year look back and there's a lot of information. If somebody's not already Medicaid eligible when when
Yeah.
their slot comes up and they're onboarding onto the waiver, then as they're doing that, they're also, they have to become eligible for Medicaid. So are you from what you've heard, just so I can clarify and take that back to DSS, are you hearing from families that it's that onboarding process or they've
Yeah,
been
that's not the process,
okay,
and it's more Social Security, I believe, than anything else.
okay.
But the problem, at least from people I've heard about, and also from my own personal experience, it's you have a lot of our folks who clearly qualify for Social Security. I mean, beyond a doubt. And a mistake is made either in the system, and that happens more than you can actually believe, or the traversing the system for folks on the spectrum is very difficult. It's a very complicated system, and they make mistakes, as many families do, and then they're kicked off, and then it takes a year, which it shouldn't, or more. I've heard actually up to 2 years to get back on. And this shouldn't happen to people. I mean, it just shouldn't happen. And there should be somebody who they can go to if their counselors are not necessarily stepping up to help in this area. So if they're not, there should be somebody in the waiver program that they can pick up a telephone and call or text or whatever and get the information they need and the help in getting through this. Because I think it's only going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
Always been a need. I mean, there's just always been a need from day one. You're talking about, in some cases, people with really, pretty extensive disabilities. And
Mm-hmm.
they try.
I'm just wondering, and Kathy, I'm not going to put you on the spot because I know that you're a different arm of ADS, but
That's okay.
I was
I,
just wondering if you
yeah,
knew, because I was under the impression, that there was disability counseling and benefits counseling through.
I can
Okay,
absolutely address
thank
that.
you.
Yeah, so we have in a different branch of BRS within ADS, we do have certified benefits counselors, but they are specifically to help people understand how their employment earnings will impact their Social Security and ideally to help them transition off of Social Security to financial independence. They specifically cannot help people get on to Social Security. They're the other side of that coin.
Okay.
That said, if someone is on, although I did see Toby jump in and say the DRCT can help if somebody's already on Social Security and having difficulties, that might be a better place to go. But I'm not sure if our counselors, if someone is on Social Security and got erroneously kicked off specifically around earnings, we might very well be able to help with that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think that's the question on the table, but that is something we can probably do.
Kath,
Yeah, Lois.
I'm familiar, very familiar with
Yes,
our system.
that's
We
yes,
something a little different.
it is.
You know, that's what's being recommended to families when they call. Well, you should contact IRS and blah 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 blah.
Right.
And that's really what they need. They need a lot of education because the system is so complex for lay people. I mean, it really is. And when I look at some of these things, I think, how can they possibly expect somebody with ASD to get through this? And and a lot of our families are starting to lose, our not families, individuals are starting to lose parents, and they don't necessarily have anyone that can do this for them. I don't know. I think it's definitely a need, and I think it's something that we need to be looking at. Actually, more than looking at, I think we know that it's a need. But
Lois, I'm just seeking clarification. Are you saying to initially qualify for Social Security? Or is it once they're on?
once they're on,
Okay, yeah, I would encourage, like, we don't have certified community work incentives counselors like Kathy's organization does, or
Mhm.
the Rhode Island WIPA program has, which actually serves Connecticut. But we can help with some of those other issues. So maybe we could talk offline and you can tell me the kinds of situations. Okay.
That would be great if I can get your information. That would.
Sure. Yep.
And I think too, if you're going to propose it as a ask, I think that looking at like where are those not meeting the needs maybe for people with autism? Is it a lack of training in the current processes, or is it that we need something entirely different? If we can kind of tease out, after you guys have that conversation a little bit more, I mean, I think that would definitely help as we look for a proposal, or does this need to be done through legislation, or is there another.
Yeah, and Tara, I was going to add to Lois's concern because I'm actually dealing with it on the other end and seeing the challenges to apply in the first place. And Lois, you brought up a really great point. So I'm dealing with young adults with disabilities who do not necessarily have someone to help them get through the paperwork. And so before we even begin to talk about the waiver, like we have individuals that need that assistance. So I think it's a good point, and I agree with Tara that we should probably isolate the various issues because there are some solutions out there already. I've had, just as an FYI, really good luck with town social workers being willing to assist. I can't say that's universal across all towns, But I have found really good, positive experiences by just picking up the phone and calling town social workers to say, can you help this person apply?
Yeah, I do think it's really timely, given, the work reporting that people are going to have to do, even though some people are going to be exempt. It's still important, and a lot of people do get tripped up with redetermination and, reporting their income to Social Security within 10 days of, a paycheck, or when their earnings fluctuate. So that whole reporting responsibility, whether it's to the state or the feds, that really is a complicated process, and a lot of people get behind and end up with
Yes.
overpayments and that sort of thing. So I'm happy to talk about that. That's actually one of the things we're looking into as one of our objectives. So, but the more the merrier in terms of
Yeah.
helping resolve it. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that up. I see that Lynn has had her hand up.
Yeah, I agree with it all the because I've been there, I've done all that, but I wanted to, I mean, I know it has no relationship to this, but I know I've gotten help through BRS. They have a special woman who just deals with Social Security and people with like those issues. So like, submitting hours and all that stuff. I don't know, maybe she would have a network like some, a connection of like where you can get somebody to help, whatever. And I know they also said Rhode Island has like, I don't know what it's called, but they have a program where there's like, and I have it written down, but they have a thing where you can get, it's a program. It's not I can't think of what the name of it is. Rhode Island College or something. They have a special department there that will help you with like Social Security and stuff like that.
Thank you for that information.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm sorry, is it Kathy? Yes.
Kathy, yes. Yeah. There's one other piece of information that might be useful. I don't know, Tara, if you'd want to reach out to Kim Williams. Do you know Kim? She heads up
don't.
she heads up the Bureau of Disability Determinations within ADS, and that's the unit that makes Social Security disability determinations, obviously. And she's been doing it a really long time. She's super knowledgeable. I wouldn't want to, I realize this is being recorded and there'll be minutes. I wouldn't want to put her contact information out in like public minutes because she's not in a role where she'd have the capacity to take multiple requests. But if you reached out to her individually and said, have there been changes? Is there information you can share with us that we can distribute? Or do you have someone who might be able to talk to this group or talk to a different group? Or, it also, you have to bear in mind that they only make the disability portion of the determination, not the financial.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes redetermination, people get tripped up on the disability redetermination or the financial. So, but I think she could be helpful to you in trying
Okay.
to flesh out what might be useful.
Yeah, and I think in response to that, I would just ask like if Toby and Lois or this group or whoever's working on that, if we have like a specific ask, if you come back and say this is specifically what we're looking for, then I can start doing that outreach and um, you know, is there a way even that through our council that we can start, that we can get more information out if we can, there's resources that exist. So where is it not hitting the mark and how can we improve upon, what's currently being used?
Yeah, and I was thinking similarly, like if we could come up with a potential list of those areas, specific lists of those areas, and then also gathering information about current resources. Potentially, I'm wondering, Tara, if we could make this the topic for our March meeting and try to get better organized on this particular topic.
Yep. I'll make a note of that.
Thank you. And I appreciate, Lois, you bringing this to our attention.
Thank you.
What other areas of priorities, or reactions to things that have been discussed? Are there any other priorities that you would like us as a committee to look at?
This is Toby again. I'll just remark, and there are a number of people working on supported decision making, but to the extent that supported decision making can be, promoted for youth on the spectrum, prior to separating from high school and being determined that they require a guardian. Some people may require a guardian or a conservator, but we want to certainly educate youth about alternatives to guardianship where supported decision making might be an appropriate option for them. So it's has less to do with there's a whole group of people that testified already at the LOB last year. So that's already underway, but I'm just crossing over here to this group to just make sure it's on the radar.
Is there a specific, besides education, which I completely agree with you, getting information out, is there a specific ask that you foresee in the future around that?
Not any more than that coalition is already working on. I'm just making sure that's part of this conversation as well. So I'll keep the group posted as we meet.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other priority?
I'm sorry, Toby, I was typing some notes and I may not have caught this, but do they have a legislative ask specifically? Because I know they had that whole day at the Capitol and met with Rep. Dathan and
Yeah, the IDD caucus is who we're meeting,
yeah.
the caucus. And there is a flyer actually that's launching. There's a flyer that's going out, should be out today, looking for training on for ambassadors to testify during the short session if possible. So I'll send a follow-up to the group and you can send it out to others.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Other priorities?
I just want to add to that too. I know that there's information on the SILS website, so I'll make sure that that I link that as well to the supportive decision making if you want to just get more general knowledge on what it is and what the advocates are looking to accomplish. There's a lot of information on their website. And then that reminded me or prompted me, like, what role did the SILs have to play with some of the other benefits, counseling or help? Do they do any of that work as well? Or I don't think so. They just do. It might be another resource for people to use. I'm just thinking through that, but okay. That's just me thinking out loud. Sorry.
It's okay.
Processing out loud.
Anything else that is coming up?
I'll ask a question if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
And I may have missed this earlier, but I know in our last, well, maybe not our last, but the last meeting of this sort of which I was a part, we talked about kind of the, that leveling system that was referenced earlier with respect to allocating money on the waiver rather than, a flat amount assigned to individuals who receive money from the waiver. But then we talked about, that potentially putting more strain on the current resources that exist. And one of the things that I heard mentioned, but quite frankly, if I'm being honest, I was distracted earlier when this was mentioned, but with respect to mental health services and availability, skilled workers in mental health, skilled for this particular population, I feel as though, we could leverage I don't know, we could potentially influence legislation to increase the amount of skilled individuals providing mental health services to our population. I'm not sure quite how to do that, but I do think that's a really important thing. What was said about that earlier that I may have missed, if anything?
So the state applied for a rural health transformation grant. That was a federal grant, and there's not a lot of rural areas in Connecticut, but we do have some. And we found out that we were awarded that grant. It's in with the AG now it's under review. So we don't have final say yet that it's going to be that it's happening, because they're just making sure that the language is something that Connecticut wants to follow through with. But we did get that grant. If that all goes through, there's a project in that grant that is for Access Mental Health that they would bring on somebody who has a clinical expertise in autism to be a resource for providers. So, say you're a psychiatrist and you're in front, they would have somewhere to call. They would have a resource that they could access for expertise on autism specifically. So it doesn't increase the number of providers across the state, but it does provide those providers with a resource specifically with expertise in autism. So the hope was that it would, increase and build capacity in that way. But definitely 100% agree with you that, not just increasing ABA services. I mean, we had a small step there, but how do you take, how do you take additional training that you've had, like say it's CBT or something, any other mental health training, and how do you apply or adapt that to somebody with autism? There's not a lot of experienced professionals out there who have access to those resources to become savvy, so for lack of a better word, on how to adapt those modalities to, for somebody with autism. So I do think that even though there is some promising practices that we potentially have in the state moving forward with this grant, anything that we can do to increase, access to community providers would be fantastic for those with autism who need those supports.
And we've had an enormous number of those experts retire in the last 3 years. And we have a tremendous shortage. I mean, it's really a problem. It's a number, well, there's so many problems, but but I was going to say it's the number one problem. But as I was saying that, I thought of three other things that would also be the number one problem. But but it is a huge problem in being able to refer people to, to really good folks.
And I think if I can just sort of extend, well, as it were, extend the problem, but one of the issues I think we're finding is that there are plenty of folks out there, not plenty, there really aren't. There isn't an abundance of mental health providers, given the overall need, not just with respect to our population, but the folks who are practicing mental health providers in our state, many of them have full caseloads. They do not need to expand their services in order to fill their caseloads. So I don't know that there's really a want or a desire to gain additional training to expand one's caseload. I mean, we've offered, to a limited degree, but we've offered training for individuals, current practitioners to gain additional services. Exactly what you talked about, Tara, with respect to, how do we adapt our strategies to be most effective for individuals on the spectrum? And you get a couple handfuls of people because folks are dedicated to this population or curious, but how do we, I think underlying all of this or sort of behind all of this is how do we attract more people to the field and to the state? And that's a bigger question. And how do we get people to take Husky, and how do we get people, it's a very complex question, but perhaps it is something worth exploring with some legislators in terms of getting some dollars behind recruiting folks into the field with highly specialized. Oops, sorry, my dog has an opinion also, but with highly specialized, training for this purpose. So.
I really appreciate the richness of this conversation. It's actually helping me kind of shape out our next several meetings because um, I think it's just helpful if we could maybe dedicate a topic per meeting and when we could really delve into it deeper as we're kind of formulating our agenda. So in February, we have DDS coming, correct,
As
Tara?
of right now, yeah, DSS would be
DSS, sorry.
coming, yep, to answer those questions.
I'm thinking for March, let's plan on doing a deep dive on benefits and benefit counseling, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Really talking about the needs, and really talk and potentially sharing some resources.
Mm-hmm.
For April, let's do a deeper dive on the mental health providers, because in addition, as Carrie said, like there just aren't a lot out there. There's not a lot that can specialize in the area that we need them to specialize in. So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk a little bit more again about the needs and potentially share what resources are available. And then we've had a lot of conversations around the level of need. At the moment, that is sort of tied up in my mind with the needs assessment and where also the Developmental Disabilities Council will be going with their conversations. So potentially we could put a placeholder in May, but I think we need to kind of uh, we might need to delay that a little bit longer, but I do want us to circle back at some point and having a deeper dive around that and what do we really mean and what are we really thinking? But I have a feeling we're not going to have a lot of good answers for that right away. So, for now, what we're doing, just to kind of wrap up for those who've joined us late, is we're really going to take the year because we recognize that this coming session, it really is not the session to have large asks, particularly monetary ones. So we're going to take the year to really formulate our 27-28 agenda for that session. And what are the topics that we really need to talk about and begin to prepare our agenda. In the meantime, um, Tara, I know I lean on you a lot, but I trust that you'll be following on our behalf the comings and goings, and if there are specific things that this council need to react to, you'll keep us informed of that, correct?
Yes, I mean, it's part of my job to watch autism policy. So I will, as information comes to me and during session, make sure to pass that along. And again, don't mean to flood your inboxes, but I do try to here and there send out articles of interest and things of interest that I think would be beneficial for everybody. And I will definitely make sure to, if anything comes as we meet monthly, I can always kind of give an update while session is going on if there's anything that would impact autism that you guys would may want to write a letter or talk to legislators on.
Is it
Thank
is it possible, Tara, to get a list of folks that are on this committee and they're in?
It's on the website.
Okay, yeah,
Mhm.
you always tell me that. Yeah.
Everything you need is on the website, I promise. If you can't find it there, then you let me know.
That's fine. I was just teasing you.
There were a couple of questions in the chat, Tara, about the November minute. So is that on the website or do you wait for those to be approved?
No, the draft always goes on the website for review.
Okay,
And then once they're approved, then I can take it off draft.
perfect. Thank you so much for clarifying that. All right.
Now
Is
there
there
were some funky things going on today because I was in there today trying to update file
ah
26. So if things look a little crazy, or they're please let me know. Well, give it a day or two and let me know because we had a major back end update to our the whole state's website. And so things are kind of, it keeps telling me I don't have permission for certain things. So it's like kind of funky right now. So I'll probably email out the ones I don't usually do that. But if I can't, if it doesn't come up clear and it's I can confirm it's posted, I'll make sure to get it out to all of you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate that. All right. Unless there is any other questions or thoughts, we might be able to adjourn early. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you in February. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.